for us?
Yep.
So welcome everyone. Today we've got the launch of the AU Core testing. My name's Michael Wilson. I'm Fire Solution Architect in Sparked. So I'll be taking you through things today. I would just first of all like to make an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we all gather today. I'm presenting to you today from Ngunnawal country in Canberra. We pay our respect to our elders past, present and emerging, and extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We acknowledge the First Peoples as the first scientists, educators and healers. So we've got a jam-packed agenda today. So we want to go through all things AU Core testing, kicking off with the launch, how to participate. We'll go through the testing events we're going to be holding and about how to submit test results, providing feedback to AU Core, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. If you do have questions as we go though, please raise your hand or put something in the chat, and we'll either get to them as we go through or we can go through the end together as well. So AU Core testing launch, we're extremely excited to be at this point for AU Core. We're moving in now into the testing phase of the fire implementation guide. We've done all the hard work up front about defining the specification, going through our ballot for comment. Now we get to do the fun stuff. We actually get to test it out and make sure that it's fit for purpose and implementable. So we want everyone to be actively participating in testing the standard. We want to use this testing process to improve and mature the AU Core specification. By testing it out, that's where we really learn about how it works and how we can implement it. So one of the key things we want to do out of testing AU Core is actually identify issues, challenges, gaps, so that we can feed all that back into the ballot process that will happen later this year. And by providing the feedback that we get out of testing, we're ultimately going to improve AU Core to make it better for the future. So why participate? Why should you get involved in testing AU Core? You get to shape the specification. By being part of testing, you get to help identify the issues that are relevant to you, and help to refine AU Core, making it practical and implementable. This is your key opportunity to be able to provide that feedback directly back to AU Core. It's also going to provide an excellent opportunity to connect with others doing AU Core. We're all in this together. We're all at this point together. Let's work together in trying to implement AU Core and learn from each other. We've got a great community we've built up here through Sparked. So getting and working together while we're testing AU Core is an excellent opportunity to work with each other and learn from each other. And it's a real opportunity to impact health outcomes in Australia. So this is a world-leading opportunity here for us to develop this specification in Australia. And you get the opportunity to stay ahead. This is the latest developments in fire we're working through here. We're at the leading edge. So being involved now, testing with AU Core means that you get that opportunity to be at the forefront of this opportunity in Australia. So who should be involved in AU Core testing? Look, this is open to everyone. Look, if you have built, you're planning on building, you want to build a proof of concept, anything that's fire enabled, we want you to use it for testing AU Core. So whether that's facade, a server, a data store, a client, even just data, even if you've just developed some fire resources that you want to see whether they conform to AU Core. There's all different mechanisms that you can use for testing AU Core. So the coverage for AU Core covers things across allergy, medications, vaccination, vitals, diagnostic results, patient demographics, and provider information. So if you have a system, a proof of concept, some data that has any of this information represented in fire, then there's the opportunity for you to use that here while testing AU Core. And it doesn't have to be built specifically for AU Core. So if you have existing fire resources, existing fire implementations, you can test them against fire AU Core without having specifically implemented them for AU Core. So I think that's an important point to note. So this is, I just want to highlight the timeline for testing AU Core. So we launched today's the launch of the AU Core testing period. We actually opened up our expressions of interest last week, 30th of May. And we have a number of testing events, in-person testing events that we want to run through this period. We've got one in Brisbane on the 27th of June. We've got one in Sydney on the 15th of July. We've got one on the 1st of August in Melbourne. And we've got a HL7 Connectathon as well on the 21st and 22nd of May. So we've got this period now, and the primary period for testing AU Core at the moment is right through until the end of the ballot period, which is the 8th of September this year. So we really want to, through this period, is gather that feedback through the testing so that we can feed that back into the ballot. So we've got some real world implementations, and we've got gathered feedback along the way that can feed into that ballot. So how to participate in AU Core testing. So the first thing you need to do is register. So we've developed an expression of interest form that you can follow that QR code or the link. Steph, I think we'll put it in the chat for us all. So this expression of interest is to register what you want to test, your product, your proof of concept, whatever it is that you have that you want to test. So what this does is helps us get information about who you are, what you want to test, so we can provide that support to you. It's also the opportunity to register your interest in attending the in-person testing events in Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne. And they're limited availability. So the way that we know that you want to attend one of those is by completing one of these expression of interest forms. So they're limited places. Make sure that you get on there and you fill these in quickly so that we can get your place at one of those events. You can get your logo on the AU Core testing website as well. So we want to acknowledge the effort that organisations are putting into your contribution to AU Core, and testing is a key part of that. So we want to recognise that. Put your details on the testing page.
The report.
Obviously, need to test things. So we'll go through a bit more of that through this presentation, but that's obviously what we're all here to do, is test. Participating in the testing events, collaborate with others on those in-person events. And then we want you to submit your test results and provide AU Core feedback as well. So I'm going to go through a bit more of that later in this presentation as well, but that's critical. We need those testing results so we can see what sort of coverage we've tested across AU Core. And we also want that feedback back as JIRA issues anything you find gaps along the way, to provide that feedback back so that we can improve the specification as a result of testing. So how to implement and test AU Core. So there are two primary methods that you can implement AU Core and subsequently test it as well. So there is the profile only support, which is supporting fire resources profiled by AU Core to convey digital health information. So this is, if you have fire resources that your system is going to use, they don't need to be exposed through any of the RESTful interactions or the like that we've defined in AU Core. They can just be used internally in your system in any mechanism. But you can test those profiles against AU Core to see whether they're interoperable with the AU Core specification. And that's just as simple as actually providing those resources, testing them against some validation services and seeing how they conform. The other one is profile and interaction support. So this is supporting fire resources as in profile only support. but also the interactions, the fire interactions that we've defined in AU Core, and that's the read and search interactions. So as I mentioned, with AU Core profile only testing, to do this sort of testing, basically compile a collection of fire resources that your system generates. And I mean, these can even be handcrafted ones if you're trying to work out how to build them for your system. And then there's a number of testing tools that we have available that you can use for testing those content models against the profiles, extension, the terminology, all these things that are defined in AU Core. So we have an Australian version of Inferno. Within that, we have the resource validator. So this gives you the opportunity to upload resources to that site and check them against AU Core. So then that'll give you back a list of errors and warnings against that profile that it finds. You can also use the fire validator command line tool that is used for validating fire resources. And we're also going to have a Spark AU Core fire reference server available. And that server will be configured with AU Core, and you can do things like using the validate operation on that server to validate your resources against the server. For interaction support, AU Core defines two primary actors, and they are the AU Core requester and the AU Core responder. So the AU Core requester, it creates and initiates data access requests. It retrieves core digital health and administrative information and acts as a client in a client-server interaction. So then on the other side of that is the responder, which responds to data access requests, provides responses for core digital health data and information and administrative information, and acts as the server in a client-server interaction. So essentially here we have client applications, we have server applications, and the fire interactions between those. So the example we've got there is the AU Core requester is doing a search for patients for the family name of Wang, and then the responder returns those bundle of patient resources. So we can test those interactions as part of AU Core testing. So if you've got an AU Core responder system, so the interactions for an AU Core responder are defined in the AU Core responder capability statement. That's defined in AU Core and in the fire implementation guide. And it defines the expectations of a responder system and as far as those read and search operations, what profiles are supported and the like. So you'd implement that in your responder system, and then you can test it. And like I said before, we have an Australian implementation of Inferno, which will enable you to test your server using AU Core test suites. And those test suites will run through the responses from your server and validate them against the specification. You can also generate your own test scripts, test harnesses, and like, you don't have to use Inferno. This is the tool that we've got there. But you can use other testing tools that you might have. And you can also test against other AU Core systems. So at the connectathons and the testing events and that, where we have other participants, what we want to do is we want to connect these systems up, talk to each other, and test that interoperability between the different systems. On the other side of that, we have AU Core requester testing, which is the client side of this, where you can implement your system as any kind of fire client, and you can test that against our Spark AU Core fire reference server. We can also test it against other AU Core implementations. Again, at those testing events, that's going to be the opportunity to connect to other systems, ensure that the information is able to be passed between the different systems. Might just break there for a moment. Does anyone have any questions on the types of testing we might be doing here? We can have more questions at the end if you like, but just want to make sure that we don't have any burning questions at the moment. No hands up. We'll keep going then. Test data. Obviously, test data is an important part of testing. We need data to test with. We want to make sure that we're only using synthetic data. We don't want to use real data for any testing that we're doing as part of this process. We want to make sure that we protect the privacy of people as part of our testing and don't accidentally share that through testing. So to help with that, we've got a HL7 AU5 test data repository. This is a GitHub repository. And we've put together there some synthetic, so it's realistic looking data that conforms to a number of HL7 AU5 IGs, but predominantly it's AU core that's there for at the moment. And we've got things like patients, practitioners, practitioner roles, organizations, and much more in there that provides a starting point. It's by no means comprehensive and have everything in there, but it provides a really good starting point for having a set of test data to represent things we want to test in AU core. We're also going to load that test data into our Spark AU core file reference server. You can load that test data into your systems. So it's there to be used. It will continue to expand and grow over time as we add more and more to it. But it definitely provides some good building blocks for testing with AU core. Testing events. So this is the fun part. We've got these number of events identified for testing AU core. These are going to be limited spaces. So make sure you get in early with your expression of interest so that we can make sure that we've got the right numbers and space to fit you. These are going to be a safe place for testing. So we together can collaborate, fail, and learn. So don't feel you need to bring a polished piece of software here. We are going to be able to work through issues together, test with different organizations collaboratively together, and we'll be able to do some real-time troubleshooting, sharing insights, and gathering that testing feedback for AU core. So ultimately, that's the key thing we want out of this. We want to make sure we're getting good test coverage across AU core, testing all the bits and pieces of AU core, and helping identify anything that we may have missed, anything that might be a problem, anything that's causing issues as part of this. And the best way we're going to do that is having people testing together, working together through those. So we have 3 one-day testing events for Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne identified there. And this is focused on requester and responder systems. So those client systems and the server systems. And we want those connecting to each other, sharing information, and we'll help you through that process there, as well as gathering feedback, gathering your test results, submitting those so that we've got the coverage reports, as well as raising feedback, and be supported by a Spark team at those events as well to provide that. And then we've got the next HL7 Australia Connectathon, which will be on the 21st and 22nd of August in Brisbane. And that's a 2-day event where we'll also, if you've don't have a system, but you just have profiles that you want to test, that's the place to bring those along, so we can help you out with those as well as the interaction testings between responder and requester systems as well. So that's another opportunity if you haven't been able to go to one of the other one-day test events. So like I said, these are all limited place events. So make sure you do your complete your expression of interest form so we can get your place at one of those events. submitting test results. So testing is great, but what we really want is the results as well. So the testing results are essential for informing the publication process for AU Core. So without testing results, we can't assess the maturity of AU Core for publication. So part of the publication process is assessing that maturity. And we need to be able to say that this AU Core has been tested by different organizations, different types of implementations, so that we have confidence in it being fit for purpose. So as part of the testing process, if you're coming along to a testing event, we'll help you out with this, but you can also do it at any point in time by completing an AU Core test results form. So basically what we want is we want your test results, and that can be in any form that's suitable. That might be Inferno test reports. It might be a set of screenshots. It might be a set of test outputs and the like. If you're not using the test data that is loaded into one of our servers or part of the AU Core test set, we want your test data as well, because that helps us look at the coverage that you've got. What resources did you test? What parts of AU Core did you test? What type of interactions did you test? So that we can get that idea on the coverage that we're getting. So it's really important that as part of testing, you actually submit those test result forms. You can submit more than one. You don't have to wait till the end to submit them all in one go. You can submit them as you go. And that's our preference, actually, is to gather this information as we go, so we can identify areas too that haven't been tested. So we can work with you to say, well, maybe we need to test some other areas of specification that no one's been testing. What happens to your test results? So the Spark team is going to be looking at this to understand which parts of AU Core have been exercised. Like I said, we're going to be doing a report of test coverage that goes to the technical design group, also goes to the fire work group for assessment of the maturity and feasibility of AU Core for publication. So that's why it's really important that we get these test results, so that we can provide that information to the working groups to say that it has been tested in this way. The failed tests are okay. Like, you don't have to have completed all the tests for every part of AU Core. We're not testing your system, we're testing AU Core. We're testing the specification. So don't be afraid to upload something that has some failed tests or skip tests or doesn't have full coverage across AU Core. It's valuable to provide testing information of what you have tested and what works. Your test results won't be shared, so they're only going to be used for that coverage assessment. We're going to publish on the testing Confluence page a summary, like you can see on there, right, which is just numbers about what's been tested, some counts. It's really a coverage report. We're not going to be sharing with anyone about who failed test, who passed test, those sorts of things. And at the end of the process, the test results and the test data that was associated with it will be destroyed. So don't be afraid to share your test results. They're not going to affect your organization. They're not something that's going to say, well, they passed, they failed. It's definitely not going to be used for anything like that. So on that as well, is this testing process isn't about certification or accreditation of your product. So this is about testing the specification, and we want to test AU Core to make sure it's implementable. So your test results and feedback are valuable, even if it hasn't passed all the tests, even if it doesn't have full coverage. So test what you can, provide your information back so that we can get that information. And we want to recognize, while we're not providing accreditation or certification of AU Core, we absolutely want to acknowledge your contribution to testing. This is obviously a great thing to do and contribute to the community. So we want to acknowledge that and put your logo on the Confluence page to say that you're an early adopter, that you're contributing to testing AU Core. So if that's something you want to do, register for testing and give us a copy of your logo, and we'll put it up there to say that you're a key contributor to testing of AU Core. I touched on it a bit, but it is the one of the really important parts of this testing process is that AU Core feedback. So we want you to share your experiences and feedback so that we can improve AU Core specification. That's the ultimate outcome of this, is that we want to improve the specification. So your input's crucial for that ongoing development and enhancement of AU Core. In order to do that feedback, you need to register on the HL7 Confluence page and Jira Systems so you can submit feedback. So this is open to everyone. It's free registration. It's open to everyone. You don't need to be a HL7 member. So anyone can register. It's a fairly simple process there. And then what that enables you to do is actually report any issues or gaps that you find with AU Core as you go. So anything you found during testing you think is a problem with the specification, something's missing, something's wrong, something needs to change, you can raise Jira issues through that HL7 page and provide feedback. And that's something we'll help you do that at connecting events. You can reach out to us, we'll help you. And you can also do it at any time along the way. So this will be key then to those sorts of issues, and that can be brought up during the ballot process. We can fix them as they come up, bring them to the TDG and the like to triage and work through. So when to test AU Core? So we're currently been working through all of the issues and that were raised as part of our ballot for comment on AU Core. There is currently a CI build of the AU Core Fire AG out now. So that's out now. We've got that in Inferno. It's available for testing right now. And the aim is then that on the 25th of June that we will have the 040 preview of the Fire AG available. So that's essentially the snapshot that we're going to use for testing and taking to AU Core ballot. So that's the primary version test, but you don't have to wait for that to drop. You can start testing now with a CI build. Most of the changes are already in there. There'll be a few little things that come in shortly, but on the 25th of June, we will have the final drop of that snapshot. And then very shortly after that, we have the Brisbane testing event, one-day testing event, and then the Sydney testing event on the 15th of July, followed by Melbourne on the 1st of August, and then the Connectathon 21st to 2nd of August. So obviously attending those testing events is a great way to sort of focus your attention there for a day with others. You don't have to attend a testing event to test. You can still test outside of those events. You can submit your feedback testing results at any point in time. Those events are just there to help us collaborate together, but it's essentially open from now. You can start testing, register now, start testing, providing your feedback, providing your test results, come along to the events. And really you can test anytime. The key thing here is that we're trying to capture this information for release 1 of AU Core. The ballot period for that will close on the 8th of September. So from now up until 8th of September is the key focus for testing AU Core R1, but obviously you can test at any time after that. Feedback is always welcome at any point in time. So it doesn't just stop then at September. That's the primary focus at the moment, is for that ballot period, but you can continue testing as long as you like. So that just, I've just talked through that as well, but this is that timeline about the testing events. For each testing event, a week prior to the testing event, we'll have a kickoff call, similar to what we do for normal Connectathons, where we talk about what we're going to do on that event. We'll talk about the technical connectivity details and the like. So we'll run those a week before each of the in-person testing events. We've got there the 25th of June when the snapshot's available, running right through until the 8th September when ballot closes. So like I said, registering for AU Core is important. So the testing of AU Core is important. You can do that now. It's available now. There's a QR code there. We've got it in the chat. That we really want one submission here per product. So if you want to test multiple products, we'd like you to complete one of these forms for each product. It just gives us a better detail about what you're testing, how you want to test it, and enables us to help provide more support, more tailored support for that as well. And as part of that form, we basically just want to know who you are, what parts of AU Core do you want to test, what you want to test, what you bring to test, how you plan to test. And this is also where you register your interest in attending one of those testing events. So that's why it's important to get these in soon so that we can make sure we get you a place at an appropriate event for you to come along to. And just on that, we've already had some early interest since we launched last week. So we've had 10 submissions already. We've got a number of AU Core responders, AU Core requesters, and some profile only. So like I said, we've got a great deal of interest in this already, and we hadn't even really launched properly yet. So hopefully after today, you'll all jump on and start registering as well, and then we'll see this number jump up quickly and see you at some of the events later in the year. So if you have more questions or comments about testing, we've got a number of different channels for you to do that. We've got the Confluence page there at the top, which has a FAQ. We'll continue to add to this FAQ as more questions come up. As we have more details available, we'll just continue to update that. So come back and have a look there. We've also got a Zulip chat channel there where you can raise questions. We can collaborative talk about different things that are going on in testing. So that's a great place to do that. And you can also just email Sparked at fire@cyro.au. So if you've got any questions or comments you want to make there, you can do that there as well. So also I'd like to open the floor now. So if anyone's got a question or anything they'd like to raise now, we can more than happy to go through that now. We've got plenty of time to go through questions. So open the floor. Milton?
On the testing days, I was just trying to understand the, I guess, prerequisites for the interaction testing. We have a facade system that's based on AU base right now.
Mm-hmm.
Would the expectation be that we would do like development work ahead of the testing day to try and implement AU Core and then come along, or would it be more on the day?
So it's only a one-day event. So, but I think given that if you've already implemented against AU base, you can test your system against AU Core on the day and see what's conformant with AU Core, what's not, and that's so. I think obviously we've got the CI build out now, so you could actually do testing against that now and get a feel for how it's going. But you could actually absolutely bring it along as is as well, and do some testing there. And so I think there's flexibility there. We're not, like I said, we're not expecting things to come along and go, great, you're 100% conformant to AU Core, we know everything works, right? There are opportunities to test your systems out and see where they are working, where they're not, where you've got issues with AU Core and where you don't. So I think, like I said, if you want to do some early testing now, you can, or you can bring it along and test it there on the day.
Perfect. Thank you.
Neil?
I'm just wondering, if we're planning to do profile plus interaction testing, does that cover profile testing? Like, is there any value in doing both if our interaction only covers some of the profiles? Is there still value in doing just the profile only for the rest of our other resources?
Absolutely. Like if you've got resources, but you don't have the interactions for them yet, absolutely. I think there is value there. And I think you can mix and match as much as you like, right? So if you've got interaction support, but it's only across a couple of profiles, but you know that you've developed these other profiles that will eventually be in your system or maybe there but aren't exposed through the interactions. Absolutely. I think there's value there. So you can mix and match and do that profile testing on the ones you have profiles for, and you can do profile and interaction testing on the ones you have the interaction support for.
Okay, thank you. But do they overlap that? If you're doing
Yes.
already doing interaction for one, is you don't need there's no value in doing just profile?
No, you can do that together. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the profile only is there for if you don't have interaction support, because yeah, the profiles will get tested through the interaction support.
Okay.
But if you don't have interaction support for them, you can just test the profiles by themselves.
Thank you.
Okay. Not sure. Does anyone else have any other questions? Like was kind of said before, the testing events, this testing process is a very safe place, right? So we've got a great community here in Spark. We want to encourage each other to work together and ultimately improve the specification. So feel free to come along and join in. Angus.
Hey, Michael. Yeah, I was just wondering, just expectations when you sign up, which I just did while we were talking. And I was kind of expecting an email back at the end, but there wasn't one. So just what is the you sign up and what's the next step?
Yep, no, absolutely. So that's right. So it's an expression of interest. So basically we're trying to gather some information about who wants to participate in testing. There absolutely will be an email back. It's just not an automated email. We want to make sure we tailor those a bit to you. So that's the key thing, especially if you've expressed interest in attending an event too. We'll come back to you and ask questions about who you want to attend and confirm attendance and all those sorts of things. So this is really, the form is based around an expression of interest. Then we'll come back to you requesting further information, providing more information as it is. But you won't get as I submit, here's my instant acknowledgement, because we want to go through those and get back to you. So it probably will be a couple of days between you submitting it and us coming back to you and acknowledging some of that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, we might leave it there. And again, like I said, all these channels are open for you to ask questions, either directly or through some of the other channels. So please complete an expression of interest form, have a chat to us, and we look forward to seeing you more through this process. So we might end it there. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.